Michelle Obama goes to Princeton for free.
Yeah.
And has been in the ruling class her whole life.
Yeah.
And she's still lecturing you about how she's a victim of racism. Hillary Clinton, exact same thing. Goes to Wellesley, spends her entire life in the ruling class, and she's still whining about how she's discriminated against. Why are they doing that?
Yeah, and did you ever see, they'll have like pictures of side by side, but it'll be like pictures of like Jimmy Carter's house and Obama's house.
Exactly.
And it totally represents something about the like corroding of our soul.
In a white neighborhood, you should be required to live in the hood if you're Barack Obama and use.
If you're using that card,
you use that card. The only reason you got elected was because of your race. You spent your entire 8 years inflaming race hate in our country, and then you go to Martha's Vineyard, the whitest zip code in the world? Not allowed.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to do that.
That just happened. You could practically feel the shock through the screen as Tucker Carlson's guest peeled back the layers of Obama's so-called legacy. And let's be real, what was exposed is a far cry from the shiny, heroic image we've been sold. Skyrocketing wealth, political cash grabs, and a game of manipulation that most people have no idea about. And you'd better believe Tucker was stunned. But let's be honest, should we even be shocked at this point? The deeper you look, the more glaring the hypocrisy becomes. And yet the mainstream media, they won't touch it. Wonder why? Before we break down these jaw-dropping truths, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe, because what you're about to hear will never make it to your nightly news. Now let's start with the cold, hard facts because the numbers don't lie, and they're beyond shocking. Back in 2008.
Barack Obama's campaign in 2008, first of all, it was just leaving how you feel about the guy aside, it was an amazing campaign. It was unlike anything that had ever been run before.
It was genius.
Yes, it was totally brilliant. It was now, of course, it wasn't what they presented it as. It wasn't like a grassroots campaign. It was,
let's sort of like elect the black guy and get past the race stuff. I loved that.
Well, especially because that was his message.
That was his message. And
like, let's get past the race stuff.
I love that.
He goes, then I think essentially what happened, and it was around Obama's re-election campaign, this is where things really went off the rails in this country, was that he got in there and continued and expanded all the worst of the Bush policies.
Oh, of course.
And so they almost had nothing to run on, and so they decided to pivot to a culture war instead.
Wait, what? Michelle Obama claims she lives in fear for her daughters in America while casually dropping millions on luxury beachside estates. Make it make sense. Are we seriously supposed to believe she's just like the average American? Because last time I checked, struggling families aren't living in $12 million oceanfront mansions on private islands. This isn't fear, it's a flex. The sheer hypocrisy is off the charts, preaching about oppression while securing prime real estate in the most exclusive zip codes. But of course, no one in the mainstream media will ever call it out.
Many of us still live in fear as we go to the grocery store or worry about walking our dogs or allowing our children to get a license. I mean, just imagine.
Aren't your girls driving?
They're driving.
Yeah.
But every time they get in a car by themselves, I worry about what assumption is being made by somebody who doesn't know everything about them. The fact that they are good students and polite girls, but maybe they're playing their music a little loud. Maybe somebody sees the back of their head and makes an assumption. I, like so many parents of black kids, have to, that the innocent act of getting a license puts fear in our hearts.
Let's talk cold, hard cash, because this is where things get seriously shady. Barack Obama pockets $400,000 per speech. Michelle, up to $700,000. And the Clintons, they've raked in a staggering $230 million from post office speaking gigs alone. Now let's be real. What exactly are they saying that's worth that kind of money? Oh wait, it's not about the speeches. It's about power. These aren't inspirational talks, they're transactions. A pay-to-play scheme where the rich and powerful buy influence, while everyday Americans are left out in the cold. And if you think this is just about motivating people, think again. The real jackpot isn't in speeches, it's in book deals, media contracts, and charities that somehow never seem to fix anything. Just look at the staggering numbers. $65 million book deal for the Obamas the second they left the White House. $16 million for the Bidens in just 2 years after stepping down. $230 million funneled through the Clintons' so-called charity. And what's the common thread? They push division, fuel identity politics, and self-fear. Because keeping people divided keeps the money rolling in. The grift is real, and the only losers are hardworking Americans who aren't part of the elite club.
I notice a theme here. There are a lot of extremely rich people who are deeply miserable and desperate to have you believe they're victims. What is that?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, LeBron James living in Bel Air, he's a victim. Meghan Markle went downgraded from billionaire to multimillionaire. She's a victim. They want you to know that they're all victims. It's because they're trying to distract us. The truth is that they view us as peasants. They're trying to make it seem like, hey, when the peasants turn against us because they're actually robbing all of them, we don't want them to look at us. We want to make them think that we're one of us. They're not one of us. They're nothing like us. They don't live like us. She has nothing that goes on in her life that is similar to the average American, yet she keeps trying to use her skin color and her complexion as a way to make people believe that she's suffering, and she's absolutely not suffering. And everyone should be aware that if you're watching this and you think that LeBron James and Meghan Markle and Barack Obama and Michelle Obama are oppressed, you are a fool. You have been fooled. They are doing just fine.
Hold up. You won't believe this. The very people who lecture us about fairness and equality are the ones secretly playing the system for all it's worth. They talk about corporate greed while sitting on top of the largest corporate empires themselves. The hypocrisy is off the charts. They tell ordinary Americans to pay up, but meanwhile, they're funneling money through tax loopholes and phony nonprofits. And don't even get me started on their climate change rants. Meanwhile, they're flying in private jets to their exclusive estates with no remorse. It's clear now, this isn't a battle for justice. It's a game of power, control, and stacking their cash. Tucker Carlson's guest didn't hold back, exposing it all for the world to see. Oh, here's the big question. Will the masses finally wake up to the con, or will the media keep playing cover for them and trashing anyone who dares to speak out? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're as shocked as I am, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and don't forget to share. This truth needs to be heard.